Thanks for listening to this episode of Screen Facts with Jason Davis, your movie trivia and discussion podcast. Please like the Facebook page and leave your comments or questions. It's facebook.com/screenfacts. You can also tweet me at JasonDavisVoice or email screenfacts@yahoo.com. Please rate, comment, and subscribe on iTunes to automatically get new episodes every Wednesday. Well, joining me on this episode of the podcast, once again, is the Blazer, Brian Berkowitz.
How are you, Jason? Thanks for having me again.
A pleasure. Always great. So we are wrapping up baseball month on the podcast. We're going to discuss The Sandlot. So it was released April 9th, 1993. Not really a lot of stars in the movie. There's a couple of people that were successful in other things that have smaller roles, Dennis Leary, Karen Allen, and James Earl Jones. But then there's, an ensemble of kids that make up pretty much most of the movie.
The fact is that if you look at this movie, not worrying what they did next, it's a perfect movie. I think this movie celebrates everything it meant to be a kid in the summer.
Absolutely.
And, I'll give a confession. I've given a lot of confessions on here. I'd never seen The Goonies. I am not a huge baseball fan, but I love baseball movies.
Okay.
There's something great and patriotic about baseball, and it really it represents summer, it represents all that's good in the world, and this movie is one of my favorite movies. In fact, my children have just been turned on to this. There's a couple, I think they say shit a couple times in this.
There's a couple of things.
Right, but we never ever say those words in my house, so
Exactly.
My poor children, but it's a fantastic movie, and I think it's a good family movie also, minus a few key phrases. It's a very, very, very good movie, and I think it would appeal to anybody, any age.
Absolutely. You mentioned The Goonies before. This movie, I feel, is very similar to The Goonies. It's also very similar to Stand By Me. Roger Ebert compared it to A Christmas Story in the summer.
Interesting.
And I think that they all kind of make sense. The movie has elements of all of those movies, the ragtag group of kids and all that kind of stuff.
This was 1960s, we think that this was taking place in?
I think it's 62 is when it takes place.
It's funny, with all the technology, all the modern conveniences we have today. I'm born in the 70s. It was in 1970, so I don't know what life was like in the 60s, but I don't think it was much different from, we still rode our bikes everywhere. We still played outside.
Yeah.
And I was a little sentimental for the time period and the simplicity of just being outside and being with your friends and having those amazing summers that you certainly, at least me, don't get to have as an adult anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great scene in the movie where there's kind of a block party going on for July 4th.
Yep.
And that's the only time they play a night game in the movie because the fireworks light up the sky so much. Maybe that's a little far-fetched, but at the same time, it's kind of a sweet thing that they do in the movie.
It's funny, too. One of my favorite parts of the night game is when Patrick Renna, Hamilton Porter, is running to play, and he's stopping at every table and grabbing some food on the way out. Because honestly, for me, being that I'm not the sports guy, I would need to be well fed before I go out also. So it's interesting. Now, Jay, I have a couple confessions about this movie.
Okay.
I don't like to say that I hobnob with the big Hollywood types, but I have two instances where I have actually hobnobbed with these Hollywood types. The first one is, in 1989, I was on the game show Remote Control.
Yes.
And Dennis Leary got his start on Remote Control, one of his things.
Oh, okay.
He used to do a Keith Richards impression. In fact, the episode I was on in 1989 had him doing Keith Richards. So
I don't
cool. remember if I shouldn't say hobnobbed with him, but the distance you and I are right now is where he was.
That's really cool. It's funny because I don't remember him on that. I remember him being involved with MTV. But Remote Control, I just remember Adam Sandler and Colin Quinn.
Correct. But Dennis Leary was on it also.
Very cool.
In the very episode. And then the other thing, one of my favorite stories, so in around 2000 or so, I was in Los Angeles with my buddy Matt Fass. In L.A., I think it's right off of Melrose, where my friend was living, was a Mayfair supermarket. And the bunch of times I've been in Mayfair, I had some celebrity spottings in there.
Okay.
But one time I came into L.A. and we went there and we were waiting online in the deli. Like I must have just come right from LAX. And we're waiting online. And I looked directly in front of me, and Patrick Renna, Hamilton Porter, you're killing me, Smalls, Hamilton Porter, is standing directly in front of me. So this has got to be 15, 16 years ago. And I was starstruck. I mean,
That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, literally, and he looked exactly the same.
Right.
And, I think he was in the Sobe commercials. Do you remember those commercials? It was like first beverage, but he was like online at the deli, just like a normal person. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, LA is amazing, And,
so cool.
Because listen, maybe he's not the biggest star in the world. I love this movie. This movie was a big deal. I didn't want to brag. I didn't want to have to, drop names on this, but this is an episode because I have nothing in common with ever playing baseball.
So I was going to ask you, did you ever play baseball when you were a kid?
I used to go to camp every summer. And
You were the kid that was picked last.
No, I probably was picked last, but I'll say that. No, it's true. I'm certainly not short. I'm not as tall as you.
Right.
I'm left-handed, which you think would be great for baseball. I must have played in camp, and as I've said about every sport I've ever played in, I worked really, really hard. I practiced. I did everything, and eventually I sucked. So I did not. But I will say, right before I came here, I went and stopped and watched my daughter play softball.
Oh, okay.
And I felt that was kind of cool that I was sitting in a baseball field where I live. I was there for like 15 minutes just before I came over here. She was catching, and she was unhappy because she wanted to be the pitcher.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling very baseball-y.
Very baseball-y. So the Blazette plays ball. That's cool.
She does. She's enjoying it. And,
very cool.
And last year my son played Little League. So we have,
okay.
I'm trying to breed out the non-athleticism from me because it's just, my father played football. My dad was the biggest kid in the neighborhood and he had no choice growing up in Brooklyn. You had to play football.
That's funny.
But he did not pass it on to me. And like I said, the harder I worked, the more I sucked at it. So
we talked about baseball memories on the last episode, Tim and I, when we were talking about Bull Durham. He asked me if I had any memories about playing ball. So obviously, baseball wasn't a big part of when you were growing up for you. But I have to ask, were you as bad as Smalls is in this movie when he first starts out?
I definitely was afraid of the ball. When you're this pretty, you got to be careful. You got to be careful that something's going to hit you in the face. You saw when him and Dennis Leary were playing catch and he got the shiner. I mean, if that would have happened to me, I don't know what would have come to me. Now, interesting as a sidebar. So I played in camp. We played baseball every day in camp, and I went to a camp called Town and Country Day Camp in Old Tappan, New Jersey.
Okay.
And there was a baseball training camp there. For some reason, the owner was able to get Yankees there. There were always Yankees walking around the camp.
Wow.
So when I was in camp one summer, there was a kid there, and his name was Michael. That's what I'm going to tell you first of all. And he was bragging that his father was a baseball player. His name was Michael Nettles.
Oh,
man. And nobody believed him. And he was over there, he's playing, and is it Greg Nettles or Craig Nettles?
Greg Nettles.
Who was left-handed, by the way, right?
Yes.
Yes, like the Blazer, you see. And his father came to the camp, and sure enough, it was his dad. But and forgive me, I'm sure he would never be hearing this, but I think he had the problem was he was not a very good ball player, and that must be horrible when your father is a Yankee.
Yeah,
so,
and he was a great Yankee, too. And he was known for making great defensive plays and stuff, and he had a good bat, too.
And the fact that I even knew he was left-handed is impressive.
Yes, that is.
I have this talent with sports. I don't love sports. I don't dislike them, but I noticed that people are very passionate about sports. So when you're talking to people about sports, if you know a couple good facts, you could turn that into a 2 or 3 hour conversation. And I happen to be very good at that. And honestly,
it probably serves you well in life.
Well, my friends who love sports, I like talking about with them. I don't want to be excluded from things like that. I like hearing expertise. I like hearing people talk about it.
I love baseball, but I don't really watch baseball on TV that much. Probably really next to never these days. Who has time?
I also like Cracker Jacks.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, of course. Who doesn't? It's great.
It's a good point.
I've talked about it on pretty much every episode this month. We love going to the New Jersey Jackals games. Sure. Because it's just fun to go to the ballpark.
Did you get a shout out from the Jackals on Twitter? Didn't you?
I
recently?
did. Yeah, that was kind of cool. They retweeted about the podcast.
I saw that. It's funny. Also, I want to throw one more thing. Is past 2 years I've taken my son to see the Mets, and he's a Met fan because that's the first game we ever went to. And everyone's like, you're taking your son to the ball game? And I'm always saying, I just don't ever want him sitting in therapy one day saying my father never took me to a ball game. But I love going with him. I love watching how excited it was. We both like eating, so there's
plenty of options there.
Plenty of options there, and it's fun. And we're gonna go see at least one game. And
you guys go to the Rockland Boulders games
we
too,
do.
right?
We live like 5 minutes from there, and
it's like us with the Jackals.
And it's funny with the Rockland Boulders is that again, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I'm a big community fan, and I like to be places where I see everybody. I happen to like a lot of people, and I love being there. You run into everybody there, and it doesn't cost you $1 million to feed your family, and the tickets are reasonable. So, maybe we'll give a shout out to the Boulders on Twitter this time also.
There you go. Right, that's true. And they're like the rivals of the Jackals.
Right, right. But listen, that's good stuff. So, are we digressing too much, or is
no, it's all good.
This is what I could tell you about what I take from this movie. My favorite characters in movies are the good, loyal friends. I like John Candy's character to Monty Brewster in Brewster's Millions.
Yep.
I like Samwise Gamgee to Frodo in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I like the good friend role. And I think the friendship between Scotty Smalls and Benny the Jet in this movie is fantastic. From when he gives him the baseball hat, when he pulls the glove out. You felt bad for a kid like that. He moved into the neighborhood. He had nothing in common with these kids. To go from there to this kid being the most important part of their summer because of the baseball.
Yeah.
If you remember, fast forwarding to the end, we're assuming there's no spoilers on a 23-year-old movie, right?
Let's hope not.
Right. So if you look in the announcer's booth, he's got the picture of him and his buddies from the Sandlot in there. I think this movie is about friendship first and foremost.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I've talked about this with Tim and some other people. The movies that have the most staying power are the ones that I think have that kind of a core, where it's either about a really great friendship or a great romance, something that's beyond just the sport in this case.
100%.
It's got to be.
The sport was almost a character in this movie because
absolutely,
you think
it was an excuse for them all to be together.
Correct, and and it was great. I love the dedication that Benny had about he had to play and we had to just. I also love that a baseball was 98 cents.
Yeah,
I meant to look up how much a baseball was before this, but I'm imagining it's not 98 cents.
No, it's probably at least $5 nowadays, I'd guess. An official ball or whatever.
It's incredible. This movie is just, it's a great snapshot of a simpler time.
The chemistry between the two actors that played Smalls and Benny, it seems natural, and there's a reason for that. They actually got those two kids together a few weeks before the rest of the cast came together. And they were kind of hanging out and getting to know each other because they knew that those two characters were going to be the nucleus of the movie. So they wanted to make sure that whoever they got to play those roles were very kind of in sync.
And it worked.
Absolutely. In fact, the rest of the cast thought that they were friends forever and ever because they were so, good together.
Did we also read, or did I read somewhere that every one of these kids said this was the best summer of their lives? It was like 40-something days to film the movie. And it was like
42
best...
days. And the director David Mickey Evans, also is one of the writers. He and Robert Gunter, he narrates the film too. So he took some of his life experiences and a lot of stuff that happened to him as a kid, was put into the script as well. So, there's a lot of personal connection to the movie from not only the cast, but the director and writer as well. But the kids are all really good together. I agree with you that the friendship between the two of them, you wonder if the world has become such a cynical place that the oldest kid, who's kind of the leader of the gang, would just join in with making fun of the new kid who's kind of a spaz at first.
He wasn't going to allow it. It
was great that he not only included Smalls, but he really helped him by giving him the glove, by giving him the cap and everything. So, definitely a cool thing.
The pessimist can say that he wanted to have 9 guys on the team also.
Right.
And here was this kid was the last opportunity, which was interesting because they talked about the 9th kid who moved away and they replaced him with Smalls. But then when the movie ends, they're talking about how everybody moved away and they never replaced him. I liked watching the baseball too. I love watching people who are awesome at something.
Okay.
And the fact is how good Benny was in this team, and how about how good the kids were when they get challenged by the pretty boy team with
the official little league team, right?
with their
uniforms and the nice field.
Well, this is one of the things I'll segue into if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
When they were going off on each other, you play baseball like a girl. I think that's not politically correct now, and it's funny because you see those commercials.
But in 1962, that would have been the ultimate insult to lay on a kid.
Of course, and then the next thing to would have said is your mom or something like that. But but it's funny now because I have 2 daughters, and things have been spun around where they're saying if you've seen the commercials, run like a girl, hit like a girl. It's a badge of honor now, and my daughter loves saying that and being proud to be a girl and doing these things on here. But
it's definitely a different world now.
But what I liked about that, kind of just move back away from that, I loved how handedly they defeated the other team.
Yes.
I mean, you could tell the difference. These guys were living baseball. The other guys, I think that they spent more time looking like baseball players than being baseball players.
And the kids on the Sandlot team have heart.
And I loved Ham Porter busting balls while they were trying to hit.
So funny. Yogi Berra used to do that too, by the way.
I didn't know that. That's
like just talk to the batters and kind of get them off their game a little bit. Very funny stuff.
So there were 2 things that made my wife and I laugh a lot. Any of you panty waists, which I found out is a term for a sissy, which was also some sort of a thing like straps to hold up a panty. Betty said that to him. And could we really discuss this movie without talking about Wendy Peppercorn or whatever?
Of course not. Come on.
But the best thing, which had my wife and I hysterical watching this the other night, is the first time you see her when Squints and go by the ball.
Yeah.
And she walks by and he's having one of those Dreamweaver moments looking at her. you know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah, totally.
And when they get back there, what the hell took you guys so long? And says, well, Squints was perving a dish.
Perving a dish?
Perving a dish. That term made me laugh so much. And if you YouTube that perverted dish,
That's funny.
You get a couple versions of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of great. So of course, You're Killing Me, Smalls. It's very well written.
Well, it's funny. Some of the things were right. Ham Porter, you're killing me, Smalls. What else I loved in this movie when they were trying to explain to him Babe Ruth and all the nicknames?
Yeah.
Can you name them? What do you got? Let's see what
The Sultan of SWAT.
The King of Crash.
The King of Crash.
Colossus of Clout.
Yeah.
The Great Bambino.
The Great Bambino.
So I just thought, Babe Ruth. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the guy that shows up later in the movie as Babe Ruth in Benny's Dream.
Right.
Art LaFleur is the actor. He was actually in Field of Dreams as well.
Okay, so that's...
He wasn't playing Babe Ruth in Field of Dreams, but it's just kind of cool that...
He looked like Babe Ruth. He played it off very well.
A little bit.
What else did you like about the movie? I like the Wendy Peppercorn stuff.
Oh, yeah. Anytime she's in the movie, of course, the most famous thing is at the pool where he fakes drowning so he can suck face with her.
And that's played by Marley Shelton.
Yes.
And you love the look. Like she called him a pervert, dragged him out and gave him that look. And we know at the end of the movie that they got married, have 9 children, and they own the drugstore to this day.
Right. And what's funny, too, is in the movie, right after she kicks them all out of the pool, he's looking at her through the fence, and she lowers her sunglasses.
Absolutely.
And gives him kind of it's almost like she's giving him a look like that was really shitty to do, but at the same time...
It was brave and awesome.
Yeah, she kind of gives it up to him for that a little bit, which is neat.
It got them banned forever.
Yeah. It's so funny.
We couldn't talk about this movie without giving 2 great references to Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark in this movie.
Absolutely. Karen Allen, of course, the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
She was in the first one and that crappy one, the Crystal Skull one, right?
Right, which, by the way, I hear the next Indiana Jones movie is going to be a continuation of that story. So,
which whatever. But
anyway, and of course, James Earl Jones.
Which was fantastic. And he was great in this. The small role he had was fantastic.
Oh, he's always good.
His facial expressions. I like when he says, George signed this. Right?
Yeah. There's an interesting little thing about that. So he shows the boys the picture of himself with Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. It's obviously doctored. And what they did was they put James Earl Jones' head on Jimmy Fox's body in the picture. It's like a famous picture of those 3 guys.
Right.
We talked about Jimmy Fox because he was one of the guys, the real-life ball players that Tom Hanks' character was based on in A League of Their Own. Okay? I thought about it after watching the movie, and I went, wait a minute. A little bit of an inaccuracy there because James Earl Jones obviously is African-American. Babe Ruth retired in 1935, Lou Gehrig in 1939. Jackie Robinson didn't break the color barrier in Major League Baseball until 1947. So there's actually no way that Myrtle could have played with Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig.
Interesting. Speaking about the other Babe Ruth thing, Dennis Leary, right? Huge Boston guy?
Oh, yeah. He's a well-known, diehard Boston Red Sox fan who hates the Yankees. So it's kind of funny that he's playing a guy that loves the Yankees in this movie.
Have you ever seen on YouTube, they show videos of guys wearing Yankees garb and walking through, South Boston?
That's stupid.
And it's like they almost get killed on it.
Absolutely.
I have friends that when they drive by Fenway would give the finger to Fenway. And
it's so ridiculous to me.
And I'll make you laugh how the non-baseball fan... I am in first grade. My favorite team, remember I'm a New Yorker, was the Boston Red Sox. Not because I understand baseball, not because I like the games, not because I like the color of the hats, but the letter on the hat was a B.
There you go.
For Brian Berkowitz.
That's perfect.
Or Blazer.
That's right.
That was pre-Blazer.
Right. It's before you knew you were the Blazer.
Right. Well, I guess I always was the Blazer, but we just didn't know that.
You just hadn't uncovered that part of your personality.
And my first grade teacher, Mrs. Maneri, I had the team card, the baseball card of the Boston Red Sox, which... I was probably not behaving, which I'm sure, and she took my cards away. And I remember that summer she mailed my cards back to me, and I had my team card for the Boston Red Sox.
How funny!
Yeah, so it got interesting. But I liked the B, and I remember that to this day. That it was it's almost funny to laugh at that. That I had a Boston Red Sox hat.
What do you know when you're a kid?
There's about a handful of people I know that will listen to this and will not believe the amount of sports conversation that I'm keeping up with. I'm very impressed with myself right now.
You're doing great.
I am. I mean, is it home run, touchdown? I don't know, but they get a point. They get a point for it.
They get points.
Listen, I can't even read a baseball scoreboard. It makes no sense to me.
We'll have to go to a game together this year.
Maybe we'll go to a Jackals Boulders game. That could be fun.
That'd be a lot of fun. It's always a good time.
We'll have to talk about that. So
absolutely.
It's funny.
But the kids, you were talking about the Star Wars connection. The kids were all really excited to meet James Earl Jones because they were all Star Wars fans. Him being the voice of Darth Vader was such a thrill for them to get to work with him.
Star Wars is religious to me. I mean, it's not truly religious, but it's so ingrained into everything I am. I can understand that if I was involved anywhere near James Earl Jones, I might become a babbling idiot myself.
Listen, he's a legendary actor to begin with, but Star Wars is definitely what connects the kids to him. A quick footnote about the character of Benny. The adult version of him in this movie is played by his real-life brother.
I saw that too. I love the mustache that he had. And it's funny, he was playing for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And he had the Dodgers hat.
Yeah. You know the other thing I love? Everything that happens in the treehouse, including when they're trying to get the ball back from Myrtle's yard.
I love the vacuums when they powered the vacuums up together.
That was another thing that Sue and I were talking when we were watching the movie. Man, these kids are really creative. All the different things they try to do to get the ball back.
You know, we used to watch, my friend Adam Bronner and I, a big fan of the show, of course, who says hello.
What's up, Adam?
We used to love watching the Little Rascals when we were kids, and how they always had those cool cars they'd make and all those other things. And we always tried to build stuff. And we were not good at it, of course. We would take like electronics apart and just basically ruin them. And
it's funny because I remember when I was a kid, middle school, early high school, the big thing, kids were making their own bikes. They would take pieces of different BMX bikes and make their own custom bike out of that.
Because when you're a kid, you're like, I'll try and do this, I'll try and do that. But
we didn't have the internet.
Hey, how about the fact that they had the erector set?
Oh, it's great.
You know, my brothers are 10 and 12 years older than me, so I had old school metal erector sets laying around. I said erector. But anyway, that was a cool thing. You'd have jagged screws on it and things, but they did a good job, and it was funny because Scotty Smalls was a smart kid. You know, I bet you get all A's. No, I got a B once. Actually, it was an A minus. So. Everything about this movie was awesome. It was one of those things like when I was over watching, you know, I always say this thing, after I eat an egg sandwich, you know, I always want next? Another egg sandwich. Well, after this movie was over, I wanted to watch it again.
It's one of those movies. Like I said, it's very well written. Again, the core of the movie is the friendships that they all share. And, you know, who can't relate to that? I mean, it's great stuff. Another great scene in the movie that, you know, we can't do this podcast without talking about the chewing tobacco.
Oh, it was fantastic. Which, what did we read, was made out of beef jerky and licorice, right?
Yeah, beef jerky and licorice for the tobacco, and then the vomit, split pea soup, baked beans, oatmeal, a little bit of water, and some movie gel. And they use paint guns to discharge it.
And you know what? They nailed the vomit. It looked real.
Yeah, it was very convincing. And by the way, when I was a kid, I lived in Florida for a few years. At that age, in Florida, chewing tobacco was like a thing. Kids got a hold of that from, I don't know, they stole it from their dads or whatever. And I remember I tried it once, and I swallowed some of the juice, and it made me sick as hell. It was disgusting.
Did they call it chaw?
Chaw, yeah.
You know, for me, Big League Chew is good, but
yeah.
It's funny. I don't think I could chew tobacco now, and honestly, Big League Chew is too sweet for me. So,
yeah, it's funny.
You know, again, I'm just not meant to play baseball.
You don't have to have gum. Or
you have to have something.
Not really. Well, a lot of players chew on sunflower seeds.
Are they moving now to stop them from being able? They don't want them chewing tobacco, right?
Actually, I think the league has either banned chewing tobacco in the dugout, or they've certainly cracked down. They're encouraging players to not chew it.
Now, Jason, did we make a big enough deal over You're Killing Me, Smalls?
We mentioned it a couple of times, but probably not.
Because that's the thing that you'll randomly hear people say that you do something ridiculous. And
absolutely.
I mean that's really been put into our vocabulary. And
yes.
It's part of the vernacular, as they'd say now. Yes. But you got to think that's the perfect hashtag. You're Killing Me, Smalls.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, something else I wanted to talk about while we're on this. You have to remember that the movie we're watching is basically the narrator telling the story. So I'm assuming we're watching this from his imagination, because I was thinking, was Hercules really chewing up the erector set and doing all these things?
Well, that's the thing. The dog is folklore.
It's the legend, right? Because if you look, all the scenes, which I think were somewhere a puppet, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Most of it was a puppet, except for when the dog chases Benny and then licks Smalls on the face.
The dog was gigantic, but when you look afterwards, when he has the T-shirt on, it's a small little dog. And
it's not. I'm going to cut you off for a second. It's not a small dog. It's an English Mastiff. It's a huge dog.
But comparatively to the visual, and I have to say, forgive me, he was not fixed.
No. We noticed that right away, too. I mean, that dog had a set on him. Holy mackerel.
You're not kidding. No wonder they called him Hercules.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
that's where he was hiding a couple of the baseballs back there, I think. Did it make you really sad when the fence fell on him?
Totally. Well,
I almost can't watch that scene.
I always loved animals, but I'm a recent dog owner, as you know, and it killed me. But
shout out to Monty.
Thank you. Monty! What bothered me, nobody wanted to help them. When he said, guys, come on, they all were like standing back and afraid.
Because they're all afraid of him.
Being a new dog owner, I don't like the idea of a slobbering dog. My dog is relatively non-slobbering.
Well, he's a small dog,
and I'm telling you right now that if one of my children were covered in as much slobber as that ball was, I'd be like, I'm good. See you later.
Exactly.
Because I was getting the heebie-jeebies looking at all the slobber on that ball.
Well, that was the thing. They're going through all this effort to get the ball back, right? The thing's worthless at this point anyway, because it's got about 5 pounds of dog spit on it. I think the whole thing with the dog being larger than life when they're telling the story, and this is where it kind of is very similar to Stand By Me. In Stand By Me, there's the big scene with Chopper, the junkyard dog.
Right.
Chopper's sick balls. And, and then when you finally see Chopper, he's not really that impressive. But the story gets built up so much, in that movie and in this movie too.
It's like the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, there's all kinds of movies where there's something comparable.
It's true. The Gooch on different strokes.
So, the thing is...
Sorry.
It's all right. It's funny. You said Gooch. That's just funny to me. So the puppet was used, obviously, for the folklore kind of stuff. Because it's huge, when he puts his gigantic paw on the thing to stop it.
We also didn't comment on, in 2016, it would probably be a little weird for the kids to come by an old man's house once a month to sit and talk
about baseball,
right?
Yeah, well,
but which really reflects what a simple time that was,
Oh, yeah.
And that's part of the beauty of the whole movie.
It's great. By the way, they got the dog to lick Small's face after he lifted the fence off him by smearing baby food all over his face.
And that was a great. That dog was huge. His tongue was like bigger than my dog.
Yeah. Yeah, those English Mastiffs they're big dogs, no question.
The chase scene was fantastic.
So funny.
The cake with the two chefs really made me laugh.
Yeah,
I think chefs or bakers. I guess they'd be bakers.
Yeah, bakers, I guess. That's why I'm saying there's so many elements of this movie that are similar to other movies that aren't sports themed. They're just
I agree. What did you say? Stand By Me?
Coming of age.
Goonies?
I think any coming of age movie that you've seen, there's elements of that in this as well.
I agree. 100%. I enjoyed the movie. I definitely want to watch it again soon.
Yeah, it's definitely one that you can watch over and over again and always enjoy it and probably find new things. You really don't have to be a sports fan or a baseball fan to appreciate a movie about coming of age and about friendship. That's really what this movie is mostly about.
And I would dare you to find people who have seen this movie that don't love it. I bet you either have never seen this movie or you love it. There's no in between.
Yeah, I agree.
In 2016, there wouldn't be any undeveloped land anywhere where kids could just play and nobody's.
That's right.
And nobody's doing it. If that doesn't put a timestamp on it, nothing does.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I think makes the movie so likable and enjoyable is that it does take place in a simpler time. Most movies that take place in a simpler time usually have staying power because of that.
And it's true. It was a sweet movie. There was nobody getting hurt. For the most part, nobody really being mean to each other in the movie.
Right. Just kid stuff.
Just kids going back and forth, which you expect. But it really, again, it's a great timestamp from a great period of time that, I'm sure a lot of people watching it, such as myself, long for.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time to come in and talk about it.
Almost got a little tear in my eye. I'm feeling a little sentimental about the Sandlot.
I'm feeling a little verklempt.
Yeah, me too. Oy.
Great movie. So if you have any comments of your own, any questions that you want to throw our way, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/screenfacts. You can also send a tweet to @JasonDavisVoice or email screenfacts@yahoo.com. By the way, we should plug burklaw.com, right?
Right, www.burklaw.com. If you have a DWI offense, traffic ticket, or criminal matter in Rockland County or the state of New York, www.burklaw.com.
Please rate, comment, and subscribe on iTunes to automatically get new episodes every Wednesday. And thanks again for listening. And thanks to our announcer, Kim. You can hear more from her at kimsvoice.com. Thanks to thewickedradionetwork.com and show theme music by audionautics.com.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Screen Facts with Jason Davis is a production of Jason Davis VoiceOver. Visit jasondavisvoice.com if you need a voice for a commercial, narration, promo, internet video, e-learning or training program, and more. Click on the podcast page to get information about where you can download and listen to past episodes. Listen again next Wednesday for a new episode of Screen Facts with Jason Davis.